And welcome into another episode of the Outsider Sports Hockey Podcast. I'm Ben Mandel, joined by Mikey D, Tom Leone. Central Division. Today, we broke down the Atlantic Division last week. Now, guys, Central Division, I feel like there's a lot more excitement to talk about, despite this division probably not being as good as the last division. For starters, you have Connor Bedard going to the Chicago Blackhawks, Logan Cooley going to the Arizona Coyotes, Nashville. Are they going to be good? Minnesota, do they take a step back? Does Dallas take that next step and overtake Colorado for the top spot in the Central Division? Does Winnipeg take a step back with no Blake Wheeler? What are the St. Louis Blues? So there are certainly a ton of question marks and definitely a lot of intrigue, I think, in this division. Maybe even one of the most interesting divisions that doesn't all have the best talent, if that makes sense, guys. So let's dive right in. We're going to go into the Chicago Blackhawks because they finished last year in the Central, and that landed them Connor Bedard. He slots in as their top line center. He's going to play with Taylor Hall and Tyler Johnson. So interesting line mates for the youngster. We'll see how that works out. They still have Andreas Athanasiou, Ryan Donato. Taylor Radish is solid. Nick Foligno is there on defense. They have Seth Jones. He's locked up through 2030. But, outside of that, Alex Vlasic, Connor Murphy, not really too much to love. Peter Mrazek and Arvid Soderblom are the goaltenders. Guys, what do you make of the Chicago Blackhawks? I know Connor Bedard is here, but you aren't necessarily expecting them to compete, are you?
No, I think that first line will be fun, and they got two number one overall picks on one line, and that's exciting. But I think they finished last again. I think that even with Bedard, I think he's going to be new to the league. He's a rookie, and he's going to have a learning curve. I think he'll still be a beast, but every first overall pick doesn't necessarily come on and just completely flip a franchise. Look, it's taken a couple years for Jack Hughes and company to flip, and he's sure to flip the Devils. So, I think they'll finish last again. I like what they did. I think they're setting themselves up for a really bright future, but this isn't the year. And I think the other teams in the division added enough to keep Chicago at the bottom. So I'm expecting Chicago to finish last in the Central for sure.
Right with Tom there. I think that they finished last as well. Obviously, Bedard is going to be there. I think this season's just to see what Bedard's got, right? To see what the first overall pick is going to do for them, just to watch him shine. Hopefully, God, I'm rooting for him. But they surrounded with this like veteran talent, like just old veteran talent. Like how much is that going to do for him, right? So I just think it's the year for Bedard to just excel. Hopefully, get better. I know obviously you don't know what he's actually yet in the NHL, but we're gonna find out this year, especially on this team. I think where he is like the main talent, and that's why they got him. So I got the Blackhawks finishing last in this division as well. I'm just excited to see what Bedard does.
Yeah, I think this is a team that's going to finish last because they are just at the bottom in terms of talent. I know they got Bedard, but I think everybody else in the division took a big step up, and that is including the team we're going to talk about next, the Arizona Coyotes. Now, Arizona, I don't know about you guys, but I actually was hanging out with my girlfriend on Friday night last week, and as she was leaving, I got a notification on my phone. It was perfect timing. The Australia preseason game is going on. I'm like, yes, now I can watch some hockey. Perfect. And I saw the Logan Cooley goal as it happened. It was awesome. Really love to see it. He's someone who right now they have slotting in on the second line. In that preseason game, he was on the fourth line, but the number 3 overall pick looks extremely talented. They figure he's going to be playing with Alexander Kerfoot and Jason Zucker. Their top line of Barrett Hayton, Nick Schmaltz, and Clayton Keller looks really good as well. Nick Bukestad on that third line is another very strong piece. I think Arizona is definitely a lot better. Oh, by the way, another big piece they added on defense, Matt Dumba. So, if Carol, Vejmelka, and Connor Ingram can do their thing in goal, this is a dangerous team in Arizona, and the rebuild might be coming around, and Mullet Arena might be the most fun place in hockey this year.
I agree. I was just about to say that Mullet Arena has the potential to be rocking this year, which just fits their name, that name of the arena. Great. Probably the best arena name in the league. And yeah, I think to your point, Ben, I just think they made really underrated moves, and people are going to think Arizona. They're going to think is the Arizona Coyotes. They're going to be a pushover this year. Do I think they make the playoffs? No, because I think their goaltending is in question and their depth is in question to me. I think their top line is one of the most underrated lines in the NHL. I mean, from a betting perspective, I absolutely cashed Arizona Coyote games last year because those three at the top just scored all the time. Power play points, all that kind of stuff. I just cashed, and they're one of my favorite lines to watch. But I can't go that brash and say they're going to make the playoffs or push for a playoff spot. I think they're going to be extremely improved. I think they still finish between 6 or 7 in the division. I don't think that changes too much, but watch out Arizona in the next year or two. They're going to just keep adding to the pieces they've already added this offseason, and Logan Cooley, third overall pick to build around. I mean, just all head in the right direction for them.
I love Logan Cooley. I think he is a stud. Obviously, Ben, I know you saw the play. I know exactly what you're talking about. That was awesome. Tom and I have a group chat we share some plays with. We should have shared it with you, Ben, but we shared that play with each other. That was absolutely awesome. But obviously, on top of Cooley, this Arizona team kind of is like the underdog you want to root for. Like, they're just not there yet, but they do have such underrated talent around them. I love Clayton Keller. I love Nick Schmaltz. I think they have so much talent on that team. They're just not there yet. I mean, if you look at their 12 forwards, I don't think any of them is over 6 foot. Like, they're like these little giants that you want to root for. But when it comes to Arizona, like Tom said, I think if you give it a year or two, they're eventually going to get there. They just, have to put it all together with the talent that they have. So all Arizona fans could do is just kind of hope and just watch and enjoy at the moment, especially with Cooley coming in. But just not there yet. But eventually they're going to be.
Yeah, and another thing to point out, a lot like with the Atlantic Division, was the Pacific Division is likely going to have at least 4 playoff teams as well. When you consider Vegas, Edmonton, and Los Angeles all got better at the very least. The Seattle Kraken didn't get worse. You figure the Calgary Flames, did they get better? Did they get worse? Did they stay the same? Vancouver's better under Rick Tocchet. San Jose made moves to get better. The only team that's not figuring to at least be better in the Pacific is Anaheim. So you have a lot of competition in the West this year. I think we're going to see those bottom teams in the West start to get more competitive as we see the East transition, as teams like Boston and Washington start to fall towards the bottom and into their rebuilds. So next team, though, we're going to dive into, it is the St. Louis Blues, and another one of those teams that may be the one that takes the biggest step backwards. We saw them become sellers at the deadline last year, something that's new for them. They still have talent on the roster. They brought in Kevin Hayes. I don't know. I don't think that this is a much better team from last year. The top line is good. Robert Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich, Jordan Kyrou. But behind that, Brandon Saad is washed. He is not the player he was in Chicago. Braden Shen is okay. He's a solid player. Kasperi Kapanen is a good player. Jacob Vrana is a good player. Hayes will score you some goals, but he's reaching the twilight of his career. Tom, you know very well about Sammy Blais. Defensively, is Nick Leddy really a top pairing defenseman at this point in his career? Not really. Colton Parayko is good. Love the guy. I think that was a good extension to sign for them. Torrey Krug, though, he's constantly been hurt. Justin Falk's hurt again as well. Callie Rosen is okay, but the other thing to question is Jordan Binnington a goaltender of the future? Or are we going to see the 23-year-old Joel Hofer, someone who I saw plenty of in Springfield, play? And I'll tell you right now, the 23-year-old Joel Hofer definitely caught my eye in Springfield when he played in the AHL, and definitely could be someone that I think maybe finally pushes Binnington and his antics to the bench.
I just think with the Blues, Ben, I think it is based off, our team that we talked about in our last pod with that division. I think with this team in this division, I think it is all based on the goaltending for this team again for Bennington and see how he's going to do. Are we going to get the phenom, that helped them win the Stanley Cup a couple years ago, or or like you said, are we going to see the backup? We need a more focused year out of Bennington to see if they compete and have a bounce back year compared to what they had last year because it wasn't impressive. But I mean, some of the additions that they had were decent. I mean, they got the Philly legend Kevin Hayes. I don't know what he's going to do, but he's going to fit in with those top six and forwards and everything like that. But
Philly legend is an interesting choice of words right there.
I had to say it. I just know I hate Philly, so I had to say it.
You also hate the other team you came up with, so it's perfect.
That is fair. That is fair. I just had to bring up Philly because I hate them the most. But at the same time, I do just think it's based around Bennington and how he does this year. And they're either gonna swim or sink. That's basically how the Blues are gonna go this year. I just don't know how to feel with them, but obviously they're out of my playoff contention for me.
To me, St. Louis, I think, and I could be I don't watch a lot of St. Louis Blues hockey. So sorry, outsider sports, hockey fans. I'm sorry, I don't watch a lot of St. Louis Blues hockey. But the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of the St. Louis Blues is slow. It's slow, and I feel like the league, like one of the slowest teams is the St. Louis Blues. And I think they just have a lot of mid players. Like I think St. Louis, I think slow, and I think mid. And I
not
think
slow.
Not slow.
I'm
okay.
going to tell you right
wrong.
now.
Okay,
I'm going to read off that top line has got some speed, and
Robert Thomas, I know, and Jordan Kyrou are very fast.
Yeah, and
but they're depth-wise, they're slow.
Bushnevich, Sammy Blais, but Jacob Vrana's okay. Yeah, Hayes is slow, but Nick Leddy is one of the fastest players in the league. He can skate with McDavid. And
interesting.
No, and
so like I said, I don't watch a lot of St. Louis Blues hockey, and I don't really care for them too much. I didn't
want you to get tore up for that. No, they're definitely not slow, but I agree that they are mid. I think the top line is good, but they have absolutely no depth. Kevin Hayes being a big free agent or big off-season move because it was a trade is not enough.
Yeah, I could. It's going to sound bad coming from a pod that's supposed to talk about hockey. There are a few teams in all of the sports that I root for that I care less about or pay attention to than the St. Louis Blues. There's something about them. Kind of reminded me of like the NFL with the St. Louis Rams. I could never I love
so relevant.
I love sports. They're just so they won a Stanley Cup. I almost forget they won a Stanley Cup. The only reason why I remember it is Gloria, right? In that song because I'm Italian. It's an Italian song that they use the American version for. It's like mid. They're mid, and that's why I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. They got Buchnevich. They fleeced my team, and that's their coup de grace. So, yeah, I was completely wrong. Thanks, Ben, for calling me out. But they're mid. No. I feel like they feel mid in the division. Hey, you got to call me out when I'm wrong. Listen.
Hey.
I know a lot about hockey, but not the St. Louis Blues.
Look, I got you there. Well, the next team we're going to jump into, I know you said you're a little bit more excited for, so I know you know a bit more about, and that's the Nashville Predators. You bring in Ryan O'Reilly. You have Cole Smith, Philip Forsberg on that top line, Gustav Nyquist, Cody Glass, Denis Gurianov. I think Gurianov is definitely a sneaky pickup. That guy can move. He is fast. Colton Sissons on that third line anchoring things with Yakov Treinen. The fourth line, some new faces, nothing really familiar there. Roman Yossi's still there. Luke Shen is still there. Ryan McDonough gets traded to Nashville, and he has been there since. Tyson Barrie's there. I think Tyson Barrie might be the most overrated defenseman in the league, to be honest with you.
I agree. Even in Edmonton, he was just completely overrated.
I mean, but you got UC Zaros between the pipes. I think this is going to be a better team. I think Barry Trotz comes in and definitely helps shake up the culture. I think that this is going to be a very good team in Nashville. Do I think they're a playoff team? But, I think that they're definitely going to be a lot more competitive, and they're going to be a lot like Arizona where they push.
I think they squeak in to the playoffs. I really do, because This is how I envision Nashville season going. They are competitive into the trade deadline, and they have the best hockey guy, in my opinion, in the league right now, and Barry Trotz, and they have an amazing head coach. And I think Barry Trotz, if he sees guys like Forsberg and Yossi and McDonough playing well and they're competitive and they're in the hunt come the trade deadline, he's going to be aggressive and he's going to bring in players that not only help the now, but will help the future for Nashville. And I don't see them as like a team that's in a rebuilding stage. I feel like they're in that kind of, they feel they have the pieces based on, the signings that they brought in, like a Ryan O'Reilly. You don't bring in a Ryan O'Reilly unless you feel like this team's got some juice, and to get them to the trade deadline to possibly add an expiring contract or a young player that maybe is not panning out, or you add depth to that fourth line because as the season goes on, you need to roll more lines. That's how I envision Nashville season's going. I expect a huge season from UC Soros. I think Andrew Burnett is going to cement himself as one of the better coaches in the NHL. And I think Nashville gets into the playoffs. Do I think they dominate and lock in a playoff spot like from the get-go and just become a stop? No, they don't have the talent for that. But I like the moves they made. They brought in a winning culture. They brought Barry Trotz is just planting the seeds, and everywhere Barry Trotz has gone, it's been a competitive team that can make the playoffs, and you don't want to play them in it. And I know he's not the coach, but he's building the same culture, and that's why I like Nashville, and that's why I think they sneak into the playoffs. Big fan. That's my second team. I hate the whole second team thing, but if there was ever a second team for me, it's the Nashville Predators. Big fan of them.
Fair enough.
Betting wise,
I do. We go to one game in Nashville one time, and
we win a shit ton of money. And I'm like, I got a jersey, and
all because of Phil Forsberg is the biggest cash cow that the league has to offer.
Did you guys get to experience the "We Want Frosties" chant?
We did not, but dude, we went to the Predators Maple Leafs game where Forsberg broke the all-time scoring record for the Preds. We were at that game, and then we put like heavy money on him like 2 days before in Philadelphia, and he scored that crazy goal between his legs. And then we put the winnings on him again that night, and with a bunch of other guys to score. It was just fucking electric.
Dude, that's sick.
It was like a 5-3 comeback. It was awesome.
I actually went I went to a Flyers Predators game, actually. Philly Preds game in Nashville. I just happened to be in Nashville. And it was like winter break of my junior year of high school. So like it was a while ago. But the Preds had a thing where if they scored 5 goals, you got a free Frosty from Wendy's. So once they scored the 4th goal, the whole stadium just chanted the whole time, "We want Frosties."
Who the hell doesn't want a Frosty?
Yeah. Crowd, yeah.
Such an underrated environment. It is.
Word. And I mean, hey, the goal song is just so much fun. The yelling at the other team. It's hey, you suck. It's all your fault. It's all your fault.
Yeah.
That's such an underrated environment for sure.
Oh, yeah,
you can see why Tom makes him a second team.
But yeah, sure. Mike, let's hear your thoughts on Nashville, though.
I'm nice and quick with Nashville, but I'm kind of on the same boat as you because I mean you haven't spoken yet, but I think that you don't think Nashville gets in. I'm in the same way. I just think they have so much talent, but they're just not there yet. But what's exciting about Nashville is that even if they don't make the playoffs this year, we get to see what Trotz does in the offseason next year because that's what he's known for. He's just known for doing crazy trades, crazy moves, and that's something that the Nashville fan base could be excited for and hopeful for, even if they don't make it into the playoffs this year. So that's just it's the Trotz era in Nashville, and obviously they got one of the best coaches on the market in Burnett. So I'm excited to see what he does, and I think they have a lot of talent, but I just don't think they compete just yet, with the other guys, the other teams that have going into the playoffs in this division. But, the future is bright for Nashville. I just don't think it's there yet this season.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was time to move on from John Hines. It was time for management to move on. I think Trotz, he brings winning wherever he goes. So it should be exciting. He got to get work in midseason last year. So he already was able to lay the groundwork this year. But yeah, let's get into our next team, and that is the Winnipeg Jets. And this is a team that squeaked into the playoffs last year. They still have Scheifele. They still have Kyle Connor. Outside of that, you bring in Nito Niederreiter. I don't know how good of a move that is. Cole Perfetti's solid. Nikolai Ehlers can play, but he's another one who's always hurt. Adam Lowry's a talented player, but I don't love Mason Appleton. I don't think that, Vladislav Nemestikov is that big of a move for them that moves the needle. Morrissey's a good defenseman, but outside of that, they have absolutely no depth. I think Pionk is one of those guys that just hasn't taken the next step we all wanted him to. I think that Dylan DeMello is Brendan Dillon is not that good. Nate Schmidt is solid, but not great, to be honest with you, as your sixth defenseman or fifth defenseman with Dylan Sandberg there. I think Connor Hellebuck is going to end up getting traded. They brought in Laurent Brossoit to be the backup. Both goaltenders 30 years old. But guys, what do you make of Winnipeg? Does Connor Hellebuck stay in Winnipeg, and how long does it take for Tom Fitzgerald to pull the trigger and bring Hellebuck to New Jersey?
Damn, I hope that happens.
There it is. There it is. I think, and it would still be the fourth best goalie in the division or third best goalie in the division.
I'd say third. I'd say third.
I'd say third. Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is the year that sends Winnipeg into a full rebuild. I don't think they wanted to commit to it completely in the offseason. I think by 2-3 months in, they realize, if they can get a good deal for Scheifele, let's move them. Let's move Hellebuck. Probably hold on to Connor if he's okay with going into a rebuild and try to build that way. I don't see them being any good at all. I think teams like Nashville will jump them. I think Arizona will push them. And I think this is the year they'll take a step back and go, we didn't want to commit to this. Like I said earlier, we don't want to commit this in the offseason. We don't want to send that message to our fans, our loyal fan base. We're going to try with these guys. I don't think it's going to work out for them. I think they're heavy sellers at the deadline where a lot of good teams want to pick up that talent that you mentioned, Ben. The Perfettis, the Appletons, the Schmidts, the Hellebucks, the Scheifeles, and they go complete rebuild, stock up on picks, and that's it for Winnipeg. And then talk to us in a couple of years when we're previewing this division, and maybe Winnipeg's back at the top. But that's what I envision for this team finishing bottom of the division.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Tom there. I just think that there is like this dark, gloomy cloud that's over this franchise right now, and I just think that the roster they had and the talent they kind of had like their day in the sun, and now it's crumbling down, and they're all stale. It's just like something needs to change for this organization. And when it comes to Hellebuck and Sheffield, they are going to be UFAs. Obviously, after the season ends, I don't think they stay. I just think there's going to be so much change with this Winnipeg team, even during the season. By the end of the season, I think there's going to be change. It's kind of a good thing because you want to see competitive cycle in your organization, especially with all this talent leaving and changing. You kind of want a change in Winnipeg. But I think that's why they take such a downfall this year, is because of that situation and everything that's going on there. They their GM and their head coach, they just need to find a way to make a competitive cycle on this organization, because it seems like a downfall so far.
Yeah, it really hasn't been good. And look, I think Winnipeg is not a playoff team this year. I think that they are actually going to finish second to last in this division. They may push Chicago for the bottom. I think that, they are one of the worst teams in the Central this year. One of the other teams, though, that is hard to figure out is the Minnesota Wild, because you still have Kirill Kaprizov. The Thrill can't stay healthy come playoff time. Kaprizov. You have Matt Zuccarello, Marcus Johansson, Joel Eriksson Ek, Ryan Hartman, Matthew Boldy is locked up, Frederick Gaudreau, Marcus Foligno. They
hit us with their big addition.
Yeah, Pat Maroon.
There it is.
Marco Rossi. You have Spurgeon and Middleton on defense, Jonas Brodin and Brock Faber, John Merrill, Kalen Addison. And look, I think everyone expects Philip Gustafson to be the starter once again this year. I know Fleury played a majority of the games at 46 last year, but it was Gustafson who really took things over. Fleury, he didn't really even play come playoff time, so I'll be interested to see exactly how that does play out. But guys, Minnesota, Tom, they were your darlings last year. Do they get back in? Are they finally going to, actually move past some of this past failure, or are they finally going to end up heading into a rebuild where everyone but Kirill and Boldy are gone?
That point right there, the ladder. That's what's going to happen. They were my darling last year. I believed in them. I thought they were really deep, and they were playing really solid hockey towards the end of the season, which I appreciated, and it bought me in, right? But no, they're gonna go into rebuild. I mean, when a guy like Matt Zuccarello at some point is not gonna play up to that level, and if he takes a step back at any point this year, it's just gonna derail their team in that first line tremendously. I don't think their defense is good, and their goaltending is suspect. To your point, I mean, Gustafsson maybe can take a step and have a good year this year, but relying on guys like Fleury probably playing, at least half of the games, he's in short. I think Minnesota is getting older in areas that are very important to stay consistent in this league. And I think they're going to reach a point like Winnipeg where they're going to have to sell those guys, and they're going to have to commit to a rebuild and building around Krill the Thrill and guys like Matthew Boldy that play more of today's NHL, and you can build around. The guys they have there kind of play old school hockey, and it's not translating. And I think this is the year it catches up to them.
Crow the Thrill. I like that, Tom. That was good.
Come on, that's his nickname. I did not come up with that.
No, it is. You know me. I don't know much. I don't hear much. So
I said it 10 minutes ago.
I wasn't paying attention. Short-term memory loss.
Mikey D likes to give me credit for things.
Always. I mean, he is my one co-host. I got to, Ben. I love you. I'm sorry. Thank you, Ben. you get the credit. But when it comes to Minnesota, I know you don't care. I know you're just hit me like a wall there. When it comes to Minnesota, I mean, can we make a case that they still have enough talent for them to make the postseason? Absolutely. But with them, like, can we really bank on these veterans like last gasps of their careers to propel them into making the postseason again and even getting out of the first round? Because like clearly home ice advantage is not going to be their thing, and just for them making the second round of playoffs is a stretch for this team. Because of the veteran status and everything like that. But they do have a lot of cap space. They still have 3 spots they could fill, before, training camp and everything like that. Like by the end of training camp, I'm sorry. So we can see what they could do, but I just don't think that these veterans can hold on much longer. And I don't think Minnesota makes it in this division either.
I think one more thing I want to say about them is too, like their scoring was a problem last year, and I don't think they improved it enough.
At all, actually.
They didn't. So it's
just
going to go
backwards.
Didn't. Yeah, they did not.
They definitely did not. And look, I think Minnesota, they're a fringe team, but I think they definitely have the talent to get back in. I think that, hey, their goaltending is good enough. But let's move on to Dallas, because this is an extremely talented team, and a lot of people are picking the Dallas Stars to win the Stanley Cup this year. You have a top line of Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz, and Joe Pavelski. Very, very strong top line. Oh, the second line, Jamie Benn, Wyatt Johnston, Evgeny Dadonov. Another great line. Mason Marchment, Matt Duchene, Tyler Seguin. What did we let the Dallas Stars build on offense? Oh, by the way, you still have Amiro Heiskanen on defense with Ryan Suter, Esa Lindell, and Niels Lundqvist. You have Thomas Harley and Yanni Hakanpää for defense. Oh, and by the way, the Otter, Jake Ottinger in goal, and Scott Wedgwood, a solid backup who put up a 2.72 goals against and a 9.15 save percentage in 21 games played. By the way, the Devils waived him, so Dallas was able to grab him the year they went through 6 goalies. What were they thinking? But yeah, let's stick with the Stars, because we got to stay on topic. Mikey D, tell us about them, because they were the team you were all over last year.
I'm all over them last year. I'm all over them this year. They are going to be a threat again. And it sucks that they didn't meet expectations fully. Obviously, they made it far last year, but they should have made it farther. But now, I mean, like literally, they just got Matthew Shane, and this guy's going to be a third liner for them. Like, that's crazy. They have so much talent all around the board on this team. But one thing I do know about Dallas teams, I'm not bringing up another sport, you do not get too overhyped on them, because they will let you down. Coming from another Dallas fan in the NFL department. But besides that, though, they are, yeah, all around, honestly, all around. Just Dallas's curse, Arlington, whatever you want to call it. But either way, they are a serious cup threat. They deserve to be. They literally have an excellent player top tier in each of their respective positions all around. So they definitely deserve to be a threat, and I'm excited to see how far they get this year. Hopefully they make it all the way, because they have the talent to do so.
Mikey D will attest to this, Mike. get my back here. Who is one of my favorite players in the NHL?
Dude, I don't know. And
I feel like
Panarin.
it's Joe Pavelski.
Come on, Mike. You know this. It's Matt Duchene. Come on. You know this. I
Did he
love
won
this
you money one
signing.
time? How am I supposed to know that,
No,
Tom? Come on.
no. Matt Duchene is. I have his jersey, a Nashville jersey from Matt Duchene. Like Matt Duchene has always
Fair.
been one of my favorite players since his Columbus days. And I'll say this: this team is so impressive. I think they might be my Stanley Cup pick because they showed the grit, they showed the moxie last year in the playoffs. Their goaltending is deep, which you need throughout the season because you can play Wedgwood and trust them and still win hockey games and save Ottinger for the long playoff run. Like they have so many options. They're so deep. They position themselves where they can make moves at the deadline as well. They are going to be the team to beat in this division. I know Colorado, which we're going to talk about, but it's Dallas for me. And this team is going to take that next step. Rupe Hintz is turning into a superstar before everybody's eyes. That playoff run last year was disgusting. He was a beast. Any big goal they needed, any spark they needed came from Rupe Hintz. Jason Robertson, superstar. And they just have winners. They just have winners on that team, and they're ready to take that jump. And I think it's going to happen. So not only am I going to predict them to make the playoffs and win this division, but on the record, I'm going on the Dallas Stars will be my Western Conference representative for the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, Tom.
How about a new darling?
No, it's not a bad pick, but
thank you.
There's one other team in the Central Division that I think got better. The Colorado Avalanche, yeah, maybe the top line takes a hit because you have Jonathan Drouin who's slotting in there, but you still have Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen. A second line consisting of Ryan Johansson, Arturi Lehkonen, and Valerie Nichushkin. A third line. None of these guys were on the Colorado Avalanche this year. They built this line this offseason, and I love it. It consists of Miles Wood.
I know why you love it.
Ross Colton.
I do.
And Tomas Tatar. And I think that this line provides a perfect amount of speed, grit, and honestly, forecheck ability. I think this line's going to cause a lot of problems, and we're going to see career years for Miles Wood and Ross Colton, along with Tomas Tatar having a step back up this year. I think he's still going to, he's at that point in his career. The defense for Colorado, when you have a top pair of Devin Tays and Cale Makar, you're in good shape. Bowen Byram and Samuel Girard, Jack Johnson, Josh Manson, they're all solid. I still think the goaltending's a problem with Georgiev, but the rest of this roster, I love. I think they got better offensively, and Colorado's ready to make another run at the Cup.
Yeah, Ben, I'm with you with Colorado. Is there a team like you can never count out, right? Last year they got upset in the first round, like local upset, and they had 3-3-2 games against Kraken and 1-2-1 game. Like they got stunned by the uplift in the Kraken team. But I just think this is a redemption year for them, right? I think they have a chip on their shoulder. They're bringing in talent in. They still got so much talent from their cup year. I just think that Colorado is a team you can never count out. They kind of like, sorry to bring up NFL again, but they kind of remind you of like the Chiefs. Like they're always in it. They're always going to compete. So I just think that Colorado is going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're coming into this year blazing hot. And yes, Tom, Miles Wood and Thomas Tatar are going to be the difference. Not really, but I just wanted to throw it out there.
Listen, hey, the reason why I think they're not going to be able to beat the Dallas Stars after the division and go deep in the playoffs is a player that used to be on my former team, and that's Alexander Georgiev. Their goaltending, to me, I can't get over it, right? It was one thing a couple years ago when they had Grubauer, and right, that was their goalie, correct?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it was Grubauer. That's what I thought.
They had Grubauer, and then Grubauer went to Seattle.
Yes, exactly. See, I get Grubauer confused with
They do have Pavel Francouz on injured reserve.
Okay, I get Grubauer confused with Dubnyk because I think they played with each other in Minnesota, correct? Yeah, whatever. Long story short, their goaltending is why I don't believe in them. I agree with everything you and Mikey D said. I think that third line is probably one of the best third lines in the NHL, or one of the best bottom six forward units in the NHL, if not the best. But to me, every time I think about them, like even right now, it's just like Alexander Georgiev is never going to win a Stanley Cup. I don't care how good the team around him is. Unless another goalie steps up, he's never winning a Stanley Cup because when the going gets tough, he lets up soft goals. He's going to struggle. And that was his problem in New York. That's why he couldn't beat out Igor for the starting position. He had the chance. He did not. And Igor just took it by the reins. Georgiev will never win a Stanley Cup. And that's why I can never pick the Colorado Avalanche unless they change their goalie. So I have strong feelings.
Georgiev win a Stanley Cup in Colorado?
No. He was on the Rangers that year.
Was he?
Yeah. He played a game against Pittsburgh in round 1. He gave up that goal in game 3 when the Rangers made that comeback and they pulled Igor. And he gave that goal right through his legs in the third period.
Darcy Kemper was the goalie that year for Colorado.
And Grubauer, I think. I think they had both of them.
No, I think Grubauer went in the expansion year.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Either that or the year after.
Those maybe. 3 guys, Grubauer, Dubnyk, and the other guy that you just said, confused the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Get them all
Either way. But, I think Colorado, they're an extremely talented team. They're going to be my pick for the Central. Although I think the Pacific Division has a few teams that could be the representative for the Western Conference. But that is going to do it for us here on the Outsider Sports Hockey Podcast. Make sure you subscribe if you like the show. Give us a like, give us a follow. Definitely join the Outsider Sports community. You want to talk with us, you have questions for us, you want to call us out, leave a comment. We're definitely here to reply. We're here to interact with you guys. Give us a follow. Fans. Yeah. Give us a follow on X at Outsider Sports 3 and check us out at outsidersports.net. We'll see you next week. 2 episodes. We've got the Metro Division and Pacific Division left to preview.